good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening to the podcast from. Welcome back to another episode where today it is the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix preview. Still getting a hang of the name, but still, we are back in the almost home favourite, the almost comfort track, if you know what I mean. It is Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, of course, when its last race in Formula 1 for the foreseeable future, as Formula 1 will finish its contract up with Barcelona to move to Madrid. But before we talk about next year, before we talk about this year, we look back, of course, to last year. For in 2024, it was the start of almost the title fight, and I think that the Spanish Grand Prix last year showed how much the title fight was ramping up to be, because it perfectly showed also what the title fight consisted of. Lando, who stuck on pole, and then by turn one, he was down in third position, which almost was a recurring theme throughout last year. But regardless, we come to this year with a different almost mindset, a different storyline in the works, in the pipeline, because we have a lot to talk about for 2025. So let's, of course, get into it, because the biggest talking point coming out of the paddock for this weekend is the longly awaited new regulations regarding the front and rear wings. You might be thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does it consist of, and why is it so important? Well, if you look back for about probably the last year or so, the amount of things on posts on social media concerning more importantly, the Mclaren rear wing and front wing is down to the Flexi-Wings. Flexi-Wings are practically where the rear wing and the front wing can move up and down fairly, I suppose, easily compared to the other cars. So that means when you are going down the straight, the McLaren can almost gain more DRS by the rear wing pushing down. Then when it comes into braking, the rear wing almost goes up ever so slightly, whilst the front wing also stiffens up as well, giving people more downforce in the corners and more top speed on the straights. You might be thinking this might be illegal. However, McLaren did manage to find a loophole at around 2024. It was the Miami package, people are saying, that they bought last year. Regardless, now they come into Spain, and it's been longly awaited after a push by rivals consisting of Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, to clamp down on it, to make sure that those wings aren't moving as flexible as they have been in the past. Which means that hopefully the FIA have now introduced a more, I suppose, level playing field in that sort of sense. Which means, and I guess it brings the question, does that mean McLaren are going to be on the back foot this weekend? Well, you can look here, you can look there. Regardless, they still have a fast car. It's not all down to the Flexi Wings, but regardless, it will be interesting to see, especially in practice tomorrow, how far they might be off the pace, or how far that Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari have jumped to them. Regardless, it will make everything the ever more exciting, because then it shows that we truly do have a title fight on our hands, not just between the McLaren drivers, but also having every other team involved. It might be a repeat of Miami last year, which will be great to see. Of course, talking about regulations, you talk about the title fight as well. You do have to turn your attention to the title fight coming into this weekend. You've got both McLaren drivers out in front. Oscar Piastri is currently leading the championship from his teammate Lando Norris by only 3 points, which means if Lando does win the race, then he will take the lead of the Drivers' Championship from his teammates, because at the start of this triple header, the gap was, I think, 16. He has now brought it down to 3 after a fairly successful couple of races, especially his win in Monaco and his second place in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, which means that also there might be a new title leader. It also might mean that Verstappen might get involved in the party if McLaren suddenly find themselves really on the back foot, really off the pace, really uncomfortable with this almost new regulation change. Then for the foreseeable future, Verstappen is the closest challenger, even George Russell, you could even say, to the McLaren pair, which means that it could be game on, as I said before. I think we also need to talk about overtaking in Spain. There is a reason why it will be the last year, at Barcelona, and it is ultimately down to the overtaking. Hopefully it's not bad as last week in Monaco, but still it will be a fair-ish struggle for the drivers. It is a fan favourite for me personally. I think that it's almost, if you're playing an iRacing game, it is the track that you go to try and practice and learn, because it's got a bit of everything. You've got high speed, you've got low speed, you've got a long straight, you've got a shorter straight, you've got chicanes. It's got everything you need. It is the ultimate practice circuit. So it will be sad to see it go for me personally, but I do understand that overtaking is very difficult around here, even with the new, I suppose, Sector 3 change, in which is just a fast sweeping right-hander instead of a really awkward chicane. Regardless, it will be missed, and as Formula 1 head to Madrid in 2026. But we look at the circuit itself, 2 DRS zones. Overtaking, realistically, the main place to overtake is down into turn 1. That is where we saw most of the overtakes last year, and it will probably be a recurring theme this year. Turn 4 is also a good, I suppose, place to overtake, coming off the first sequence, the first corner, which is a right-hander, which then forms into a quick left, then long sweeping right-hander, which gives some drivers a switchback opportunity, or just having a decent run into turn 4. Also after the back straight, where there is DRS, because there are 2 DRS zones, I believe, one on the main straight and one on the back straight after Campster, the fast right-hander, which means that there is also overtaking opportunities there equally. If we look to weather, I mean, weather is pretty basic. It is going to be a very hot weekend for the drivers. On Friday, it is looking at 30, Saturday 31, Sunday even 30, and a 0 to 1% chance of rain, which means that strategy is going to be key around there. The compounds that they've bought for this weekend, I believe, are the C3. Let me just double check. I think it is the C. Just double check. Sorry. Oh, they're bringing the the hardest range in their pack, C1, C2, and C3, which means that they are looking at degradation going to be a factor. Pit stop wise, I mean, a 1-stop was the plan last year, so I don't think there will be any change in that. However, from the last couple of years, it has still just been a 1-stop, which will not change much. Let's go to predictions now, the fun part of the preview, I suppose. God, so qualifying, I've gone, and I'm really sticking with this. Verstappen, Piastri, Norris top 3. Verstappen taking pole, Piastri taking second, and Norris taking third, as Leclerc and George Russell finish 4th and 5th in qualifying. Race, however, I have made a difference. I'm almost spreading my eggs in different baskets, because I am backing Lando Norris to take 2 wins in a row on the bounce in Barcelona. Verstappen to be second, Piastri to be third, as Leclerc and Russell, as they qualified, finished 4th and 5th. In the middle of the race, I've gone purely just based on 5s. I'm going for Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Antonelli, and Albon top 5. Biggest good surprise, I'm going to say Red Bull. I think Red Bull will do quite well. I think it is going to be, this is their time now to try and challenge to see if there is a title fight on, and if they can really get up to McLaren's, I suppose, level of pace. Biggest flop, I've gone for Mercedes. I think that they had a really poor weekend in Monaco, and I think it will still continue to haunt them just a week later in Spain. And crazy prediction, both Saubers into Q2. I don't think that's actually happened this year, I think. So, or maybe in Australia, but still, both Saubers to be in Q2. I think that is a great place to wrap off the podcast. Hopefully it'll be a good race. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a simply lovely day. Goodbye.